Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I'm trying a few different things. So you might notice some of my videos are going to be shot in different areas of the house. Um, as I mentioned in one of the other videos, I had been shooting on the second floor in a vacant room that we have up there. And it's been really hot. We're going through a heat wave here in Southern California. And I like the room because it's quiet, and the AC is usually off upstairs, but I was roasting. And so I'm taking this opportunity to try different setups. The only thing I'm hoping is that the AC is not making a lot of like background noise. I have here in my room, there's the AC, there's an air purifier. Sometimes I have a fan, but the fan is off for now. I did check the other video and the sound was okay. I'm also using the front facing camera. So I typically use the other camera because I like the resolution better, and for whatever reason the mic picks up better. And so, I'm trying different things and I kind of want to experiment with it to see if maybe this is a good way to shoot. Maybe if this looks really good depending on the lighting, I might keep trying this because it is actually a little bit easier for me. So this video is going to be about my sensitivities, the sort of the evolution of them. I do have a playlist about my symptoms. It's called, I think, my symptom playlist. And on that playlist, it tells you what symptoms I have in relation to my food sensitivities. So there's like oxalate sensitivity, FODMAPs, histamine, things like that. And that kind of goes into detail for each individual sensitivity. In this video, I wanted to talk about the trajectory, how it happened, and how it unfolded. The reason why I want to talk about it is because I am pretty sure there are people out there that are in the same boat as I am or as I was. And you're probably wondering what is happening to you and why, everything that you eat is bothering you and why it just seems to keep getting worse. And some people have difficulty figuring out that something is actually bothering them, something that they're eating or something that they're putting on their skin. And this might be helpful to those people so that they can identify that there is actually, that something that they're doing is what's causing the symptom. So I have my notes here. It's a bit of a different setup, so I'm trying to kind of orient myself here. So when I first saw my immunologist back, I started seeing her in 2011, I think. So it's been about a decade. She did tell me that I was going to become like intolerant to everything. Now, I want to make the distinction between intolerance or like a sensitivity and something like mast cell. Mast cell disease is basically when you have like allergic reactions, rashes, anaphylaxis to things that you eat or even environmental things. And this is different. I'm having sensitivities. Things will bother my skin, but they won't cause a rash. I have digestive issues, but I'm not having allergic reactions or anaphylaxis. I'm not breaking out in hives. I'm not getting swollen. So it's technically not an allergy. It's just a sensitivity, which sensitivities can be very, very unpleasant. So she told me you're going to become intolerant to everything. It's, and I guess I assumed that because she was telling me that in that moment that it was going to happen, like over the course of like a couple years or something. And it actually didn't. It was going to happen over the course of a much longer time. And I mean, she wasn't wrong. She absolutely was not wrong about that. So I'm going to give an example of one sensitivity to one, well, I guess to one category of things and show you kind of how that evolution happens. So I drank milk throughout my childhood, cow milk, probably like everybody else. And I think when I got to college, and I think this is pre-diagnosis, so I've always had kind of an issue with milk. Once I got to college, I noticed that I was just having, I don't know, I think it was like gassiness or bloating. And they had Lactaid. They actually had Lactaid in the cafeteria, so I started drinking Lactaid. And I think it worked for a little bit. And I think by the time I graduated, which was when I was like around 21, and I believe that is post the onset of my medical issues, I didn't know at the time, but it happened sometime around age 21. I started noticing that milk in general, like dairy milk or cow milk, was not going to cut it. So I cut dairy or cow milk out of my diet completely because lactate is still cow milk. So it just doesn't have the lactose, but it still has, I think, like casein and other stuff. So I switched to soy milk. And I noticed that I could tolerate these milks for a few years before I would have to switch to something else. So I switched to soy, and I think by the age of 23 or 24, I started developing bad acne. And this was due to something else, but I know that soy milk, I think they tell you like just eliminate it from your diet if you're having acne issues. So I switched from soy milk to almond milk, which almond milk was kind of becoming a big thing at the time. So I was probably around 23, 24 at the time. And I was good with almond milk, I think, up until I was 26 or 27, because I believe I was not living at home anymore. And I think I was living with my husband at the time. And that was, so yeah, 20 from almond milk lasted about 3 years. It's so funny when I say almond milk lasted about 3 years because it's that's kind of how these sensitivities work. Like, oh, this lasted this many years, and then I had to stop eating that or using that. So by the time I was, I think, 27, I had to switch, and I think I made the switch to coconut milk. And I think I lasted quite some time on coconut milk. I'm not really sure how, because I look back, coconut is a nut. It could be an allergen. It's not FODMAP friendly. I do think a lot of times I had maybe a low grade sensitivity to a lot of these items. I just didn't notice it. It wasn't enough to really bother me a lot. And I kept eating them or drinking them, not knowing that it was just going to keep getting worse because I was already sensitive to it. So that lasted a while. I think I was probably 27, and probably I think around 33, I just had to stop. I think I tried to switch to that Ripple pea milk, and that also kind of was like, I think I kind of, you know, how do you say it? Like I was kind of forcing myself to drink it because I was running out of milks to try. And there was something in the pea milk, I think an additive, because they sometimes add like sunflower oil or other kinds of things that didn't agree with me either. So, I just ended up having to give up both and actually went without milk for a few years until I think this year. I think this year I started incorporating oat milk because I was able to find one that I could more or less tolerate. The problem is that I'm having a lot of oat products, including oatmeal. I make oatmeal pancakes and things like that. And again, it's like only a matter of time before, I exhaust that option. And it was a similar trajectory with makeup, except, the reason I give the milk example is because I feel like I have a much clearer picture of how many years it took for each item to start bothering me. And so that's why I kind of wanted to set the foundation with that example. But makeup, it's been the same thing, in college, same thing. That's when it started. I started feeling like my eyes were weird every time I would use a certain eyeliner. And then I switched to a different brand of makeup and was able to use that for a while. And little by little, I had to eliminate, eyeshadows, eyeliners, things like that, lipsticks, and then eventually, for example, right now, you might notice in some of my videos, I haven't even been wearing mascara, because just within the last few weeks, I started noticing that my eyes were kind of feeling funky. And this is one thing that I kind of, right now that I'm talking about the eye thing, and this is going to be a good example. The sensitivity will start out with this kind of flare up of a symptom. For example, when I started losing my hair, my head started itching really, really bad. And that was, I think, the beginning of more severe histamine problems, but I didn't know what it was. My head just started itching really, really badly. Eventually, I spoke to my doctor and we were like, there's some kind of histamine issue going on. And so I really had to be careful to stay away from, foods that were very high in histamine. But that's how it started. It had this kind of intense flare up of intense itching. then that kind of died down, but the sensitivity stayed. I still have to be very careful around high histamine things like dark chocolate, nuts, tomatoes, things like that. And the same thing with the eyes. A couple weeks ago, my eyes started itching. Like this, the little corner inside my eyes was itching like crazy. I mean, to the point where I was like, wanted to gouge my eyes out. And it was really bizarre because, my eyes do itch. Sometimes they feel dry. Right now, they feel kind of dry. It might be because of the AC or something. But that very, very, very intense itching was kind of unusual. It's just like extremely intense. And then it stopped. It lasted, I think, like 3 or 4 days. And then it kind of died down slowly over a couple days. And I was like, okay, it's gone. And I think the other day I was putting on my eyeliner. It's literally the last eyeliner that I was able to find that I could use. And I think I put a little bit on, and I think I was getting ready to shoot a video like this, and my eyes were just feeling weird. They were feeling like dry and kind of grainy, almost like when you're tired and when you want to go to sleep and your eyes are kind of like bugging you. And I was like, what is going on? Like, is there something in my eye? I didn't have eyeshadow on. I don't think I was even wearing mascara. And after so many years of developing these sensitivities, I've started learning the pattern that I had that very intense eye itching. I started thinking about it because it had just happened. And I was like, oh, that was my body, reacting and developing this new sensitivity. Just like the head itching, just like, I developed a sensitivity to, in my face. I was using a face wash, and I blamed the face wash because I started developing kind of burning and sensitivity on my skin. And it actually wasn't the face wash. I was just developing more sensitivities because I stopped using the face wash. The burning stopped, but I started noticing that I was sensitive to, face creams and other types of makeup that I had not previously been sensitive to. So that really sucked a lot because that eliminated quite a few things. And then, of course, the burning dies down, and then it just becomes individual sensitivities, a sensitivity to this lotion, a sensitivity to this eyeshadow, that kind of thing. But it always starts with that sort of intense flare, and then it dies down, and you just are overly sensitive afterwards. So it's very insidious. It creeps up on you. Sometimes you don't really know. Like with my hair, I had to talk to my doctor, and she was like, I think you're having histamine issues. We did, I think, a 24-hour histamine test, and I don't think it showed anything. But she told me, she's like, yeah, just be very careful with what you eat, which at that point, I mean, this was like a couple years ago. So I was already not eating much. So, it just becomes an elimination thing. You just have to keep eliminating and eliminating whatever you're eating, and then, eat whatever it is that doesn't bother you. But sometimes it gets hard to identify what it is that's going on until I talk to my doctor. I'm usually pretty good with it, and now I've kind of caught on to it, and I'm just like, well, I have to really, if I start having a weird, intense, sensation somewhere, I know that something is going to happen. So you can develop multiple sensitivities to a single thing. That's the other thing that I discovered recently, in recent years. For example, with nuts and seeds, I developed a sensitivity to that many, many years ago, back when I was like 26 or 27. I developed oxalate sensitivity, and that causes one set of symptoms. And so I had to reduce or eliminate nuts and seeds. But as time went on, I was like, oh, I can just have like a little handful. Like I can have maybe 5 almonds, just something to munch on or something. Then I developed, many years later, that was when I was like 27, then I was, the histamine issues developed in late 2019, which was, I was probably 35 or 36. And then I started having the head itching because I was having just a few almonds a day. It wasn't, the oxalates didn't bother me that much that I couldn't have just a few. And then I was just like, oh no, my hair started falling out and I was like, what's going on? And I was having, just peanuts, like a few peanuts or something. It wasn't even that much, but it was enough to provoke that histamine issue, along with like coconut milk and things like that. And that again too is linked to SIBO and SIFO, and you can watch those videos in my symptom playlist. Um, when it comes to nuts, I have the oxalate sensitivity, but I also have the histamine sensitivity, which is kind of ironic because I was supposed to have stopped eating them with the first sensitivity, and I didn't think that they would cause even more problems, but my body surprises me every day. They can manifest differently in different parts of the body. So, for example, beeswax and honey, any kind of like bee product, if I use it on my face, it kind of burns and tingles. And it's weird too because different parts of my face will react differently. So for whatever reason, from here back, this part of my face, like where you would put highlighter, is more sensitive than like the middle part of my face. So I'll feel tingling and burning here more than like in the middle, which I think is just weird. But if I put anything that has like beeswax or honey on my face, it'll burn or tingle. If I put it on my lips, it makes my lips peel. And again, that's not great because my lips are reacting to it. It may not be an allergic reaction, but they're bothered by it. And when that happens, that's when you get cold sores and stuff. I'm actually healing from a cold sore right here. So I've actually, with my lips, just to moisturize my lips, I use Vaseline. I've literally been reduced to Vaseline. I'm not using like Burt's Bees. I've never liked using Burt's Bees because it always has bee product. And just Vaseline to moisturize. I have certain lipsticks that I can tolerate more or less well, but on the day-to-day, it's like Vaseline. I've still been developing sensitivities, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to try the exosomes, because IVIG helped a lot with my muscle stiffness, or it helped enough with my muscle stiffness and some digestive issues, and it kind of kept me stable. But I was still developing sensitivities and histamine problems, which sort of surprised me because IVIG is supposed to stabilize you with those things. There are some people that have allergies and stuff, and they say that since they've been on IVIG, it has helped them. And unfortunately, I developed the hair loss and the histamine issue while I was on IVIG. I had been on IVIG for about a year, and so that really, that's kind of when I started really seriously thinking, I wanted to continue on my IVIG and see if maybe over time it would help. And, I had been on it for 3 years and I still had the sensitivities and I was still kind of developing more slowly. They were developing more slowly, but they were still there and it wasn't reversing, sensitivities and things like that. So, I had read that exosomes can stabilize your mast cells. They can help with, with histamine issues. I think there was one girl that I read, she actually had like allergic reactions and rashes, and that kind of stopped after her exosome treatment. Unfortunately, it does appear that I'm still developing sensitivities through my exosome treatment because of the eyeliner incident, which just recently happened. But I do know also from reading that girl's blog is that your histamine kind of goes through the roof in the beginning of the exosome treatment. She said she was having reactions left, right, and center to high histamine items like, dark chocolate and stuff like that. And I think I have actually been having more issues with dark chocolate, like headaches and stuff. And I would notice that it kind of made me a little headachy, and that's actually, histamine is notorious for giving you headaches and migraines. If you're a red wine drinker and it gives you migraines, that's histamine. And dark chocolate is very high in histamine. And so, I feel like that might be responsible for, some of those issues. But, I am a little scared because, like I said, I had that eyeliner incident just recently. and I am 6 months post exosomes, so I'm hoping that it is just, that histamine, you start releasing histamines because of whatever the exosomes are doing in your body, and I'm hoping that that's what it is, and that it's not anything permanent. Because I did hear that exosomes actually stabilize your mast cells. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do that treatment, because the IVIG wasn't cutting it as far as the sensitivities and food intolerances, and actually even skin intolerances were concerned. So I'm hoping, I'm still hoping that it works eventually, but I wanted to kind of demonstrate the trajectory of this kind of problem, because I think there are people out there that are just like, everything makes me sick, or I just always have issues. I also think that people manifest this differently. There are people, I think, that their sensitivities kind of come and go, or they rotate in and out. And I think that's another thing to look at. Mine don't happen like that. Once I develop a sensitivity, and once I have an intolerance to something, it's just there. It doesn't really seem to fluctuate much, and it doesn't seem to go away or come and go. But I do think there are some people where it does vary. I think depending like day to day, or where they're at as far as inflammation is concerned. But this has been a long video, a lot longer than I anticipated. I hope this helps someone out there, because it drives me crazy. I mean, now I'm used to it. Now I kind of can see the signs and identify, that something has happened in my body and I have a new intolerance. But I hope this helps someone else out there, because it can be a crazy making journey, and very confusing and very scary. So please like and subscribe. And